Hello, I'm Brian. Welcome to my second video on wood turning. Today I'm going to show you how to attach the wood to the lathe and actually start some wood turning. So for that I'm going to use, I've got this piece of wood which is I've had on the lathe before, so this will do just to start with. So to put this on the lathe we need a drive centre here which fits into there, and then the tail stock has got to come up. So I fit this onto this end like so, bring the tail stock up, lock it in place so that's fixed, and then I can wind this so it goes into the centre of the wood. Just do it nice and tight, make sure it's well seated both ends, that's fine. And I can slacken that off a little bit now, it's bedded in. So that's attached to the lathe and so it's ready to be cut. So now we need to bring in the tool rest. I've got two different sizes of these. I'll use the largest one for now. That fits into the rest holder. So you can adjust the height with this, and you can adjust the distance away. So it wants to be just clear of the wood. Like so, a couple of millimetres gap there, and then to stop it sliding along sideways, we lock it underneath. So it's all solid now, and check by rotating by hand that it's not going to be rubbing on there. And the height needs to be just slightly lower than the centre of the wood, so that's about right. And then we use our cutting tools. There's a selection of these. This is a general purpose gouge, a 3/8 gouge, this one. So quite general purpose tool. So I'll use this for doing that. And when you use these tools, you've got to be aware that you've got the bevel here which needs to rest on the wood itself, and then you adjust the height so that the actual edge, which is quite sharp, will rub into the wood. So, right, so I'm going to do the cutting now. I'll switch the lathe on and it'll be a bit noisy, and then I'll do a bit of cutting to show you how it goes. So the switch is here on this. We hold the chisel on the rest at an angle, and we have to adjust the angle up and down to adjust the cut, but it must always be sitting on the rest. So if I start with it with the handle low, it won't cut. So I'll come in like that, I'll rub it along the wood, and it's not cutting at all. If I bring it down, then it will start cutting. So there I've just cut a piece off of here, just to show, and if I can just recap on that, the important thing is that the tool must sit on the metal, on the rest, and you adjust the height of this handle to get the cutting just right. If you lift it too high, it will cut too deep and give you a rough finish, and if you have it too low, then it will not cut at all. It will just be rubbing on the back of the chisel. So we can use this chisel now to do shaping. So I'll do a bit of shaping and show you. Switch on. And I put on a piece of square wood because when you actually do square, then you see you've got to get it round first. So I just want to show you a bit of that. I'll put this on, move the towel stock back, get enough room for it, like so. Lock it. Now wind this in to grip the wood. Do it nice and tight to make sure it beds in properly at the other end here. So that's fine, and you can slacken it back a bit. Now I've got to adjust the height of this again up to just below the centre, which is about there. Lock that in place so that's firm, and check that the wood will rotate without catching the rest. I think that's a touch too high, just lower it a bit more. Right, that's it. So that when I put the chisel on and cut, it's only going to just take the corners off like so to start with, and we've got to remove the corners like I have here already, and make it into a round. So we'll start doing that now. So remember that it all rests on there, and you move it in. Corners, then obviously it feels a bit smoother and you can go in further. So there I've taken the corners off, but obviously to make it completely round I've got to take a lot more off. But that's the general purpose. Another thing is you've done your wood turning, that you've got the shape and what you want, then you've got to actually be able to take the wood off the lathe, which you can obviously do by unscrewing this. But your workpiece, after you've shaped it all, you will have a mark on this end where the point goes in there, and the drive at this end will be marked. So what you've got to do is remove the end pieces after you've got the shaping that you want. And the way you would do that would be with a parting tool, which is this thing here. It's a very narrow tool with a sharp edge just there. And you actually put that in so it cuts right through the wood to remove that damaged piece at each end. So you have to do that at each end. So I'll just show you that. So I've made quite a groove there. If I carry on going and cut right through, then obviously the wood will fall off. But you need to do both ends. So if I carry on here, cut right through and it falls off, I haven't done the other end. So I need to leave that partially done and then come back and do this end. And then when I've got it off the lathe, which I can do now, imagine I've finished doing the wood turning. I've got all the shape that I want, and I've got the ends done. I would do this one as well, and you can then just finish that off with a saw, and then sand the end off. So that's how you can deal with that. So this method is what we call spindle turning. This would be the spindle, but sometimes you would want to do something which doesn't use the tailstock. If you've got a short piece of wood, for instance, pieces I've made before. So this is a nice little dish, and with this idea you actually make a groove, a dovetail groove, if you can see that in there. It's got to be the right size, and that will fit onto the wood turning chuck which I showed you in the first video. So the jaws of this chuck would fit into there and expand to grip it. So the way you would turn a thing like this is you'd fix it onto the lathe first, and not using this, but some method of attachment, such as a plate or a glue method, and it damages that piece of wood, but that doesn't matter because you're going to turn that afterwards. The important thing is you get it fixed onto the lathe and you turn this so that it will fit onto the chuck, and then you put the chuck onto the lathe and you attach this to the chuck, and you don't need the tailstock then. That can be moved out the way. So that would be fitted on there. This piece of wood here would be damaged because it was fitted onto the drive shaft there by one method or another, and then you then work on this surface here so that you can get a nice shape. And then when it's all shaped and the back here shaped, you can do the back here as well. You then can take it off the lathe and do the polishing and so on. So this is done with that, and of course you take it off the lathe and it's a finished job. So another example of that is this bowl here. This has got a different wood base, and again you've got the dovetail cut in there. And there's another one I've done. Again, the method of that was with the dovetail cut in there. So this is made up of several bits of wood. This piece here, the middle piece, this piece here, and the top piece, and then these little spindle bits in there, which is a bit tricky job to do, obviously. So I think that's the basics of doing turning. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Bye.